Wanna talk? So let's talk. Here. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
You gotta talk, you wanna talk.
Good evening and welcome, my friends. It's the middle of a blizzard, but we're here. This is Talk to Solomon. Thanks so much for joining us. That's me, Stan Solomon, my co-host.
Chief Steve.
Former police chief and lawman extraordinaire, Police Chief Steve Davis. Now, we have a guest this evening. His name is David Maines. He's going to talk to us about some things taking place in Africa, but they're not that unique. But we'll welcome him and see what he has to say. David, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Stan. Good to talk with you.
Pleasure. Thank you for joining us on the show. Now, Muslims murdering people, Muslims harassing people, Muslims intimidating people is the story of the Muslim quote-unquote faith from its inception up to, through, and including today. What's happening that's unique there in Nigeria?
Well, I would probably say militant Muslims rather than just Muslims as such. Nigeria is a big country. It's the seventh largest country in the world. It's about 50-50 Muslim and Christian. And by Christian, I mean Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox, the whole Christian gamut. It's strange because the northern half of Nigeria is mostly Muslim and the southern half is dominantly Christian. And what we're talking of as far as slaughter of Christians is in the northern half, where the Christian population is less. Christians and Muslims have lived next to each other for long periods of time, but this is a militant group that has come in, and they are literally murdering Christians. They are bombing churches, setting churches afire, and we're talking numbers of churches, close to 100 churches at least that can be documented at this point. And then they come in with a group of 40, 50 gunmen into a village targeting the Christians, and they literally shoot them, and you'll have a large number of Christian people who are killed. And I'm an older gentleman. I've worked in radio television for years, and when I heard about what was going on, because I have a close friend who works with Medical Ambassadors International, I said, we need to document this because people in the United States are not aware of what is going on. So I went over with a small video crew and a sound person, and we were able to capture these testimonies. Let me just give you one, Stan, to give you a feel of what I'm talking about. I obviously can't go in and say, when is the next bombing of a church going to take place or the slaughter of people in a village? All I could do was somehow locate myself in about a central point in the country and then see if I could get these survivors to come in and tell their stories. They're very sad stories. Some of the people still in shock. I talked with one minister. The militants, he heard the gunshots, and he tried to get his family to run. He had 6 children, was married, and the children, for some reason, and his wife, they ran into the house. He called to them, said, come with me, and he ran to the bush to hide himself. And when the kids and the mother were in the house, eventually when the militants came, they poured gasoline around the house. I guess I need to say houses there are not like houses here. They're not huts, but they're kind of in between where I might live or you would in a hut. And here these kids and the mother were inside. They set it afire and burned them all to death. Well, this was one of the gentlemen I talked to. He's lost his family. He's lost his home. He has no job. He has no income. He has no property. And it took him 2 days to get to where we were through contacts who were Nigerian friends. And basically, he tells his story. And we have a number of those stories on the video that was made. I was there in November. This is only what we're in the March now. The video is finished. And it's available to people who would want to see it. And that's basically my concern. I'm not concerned about the political ramifications, the government things and all that. I'm basically concerned for believers in Christ who have had everything taken from them. They're in a terrible situation and they don't have the finances. And I'm trying to say, how do I help these people the best I can? And individuals can actually get a copy of that video by going to medicalambassadors.org. That's the homepage, medicalambassadors.org. And then on that, there'll be a Nigerian picture. They can click to that link, and then it'll show them how they can get a copy It's about a 21-minute video free of charge.
Now, as I listen to what you're saying, as I try and imagine a human being going through the loss of their spouse and their children, and I'm an old gentleman too, I guess I'd have to say. I'll be 70 next year, but I've been blessed. I've been blessed in that I still have the ability to strangle a person who needs to be strangled, to dismember a person who needs to be dismembered, and to disconnect from this world a person who needs to be disconnected from this world. Now, obviously, I'm not God. I don't make those decisions, but I have the feelings. And earlier today, in preparing for the show, I watched a video, and you say militant Muslims. I think all Muslims are following the devil, and many are working in concert with the devil. That's my personal opinion. Everyone has a right to their own. But I watched 6 men kill, allegedly an honor killing, a young girl, a teenage girl, for whatever reason they came up with to kill this girl. And people standing around watching and doing absolutely nothing, listening to this girl scream as they murdered her.
Mm-hmm.
I have no empathy, sympathy, or patience for anything or anyone involved with that faith. Now, that doesn't mean I want anyone hurt unless you happen to be doing some hurting, in which case you should get what you give. But let me ask the Chief to comment.
Well, first of all, I think that many Christians, if not most Christians, confuse the teachings of Jesus about peace on earth and turn the other cheek. There's nothing that Jesus has ever taught us that says we have to just subjugate our life because someone else is attacking us because of religion. And so I don't know what the laws are in that country about ownership of weapons or whatnot, but nothing that Jesus has ever taught us says that we cannot defend ourselves to keep ourselves safe from harm. So I think that that's a philosophy that many Christians have jumbled up, and then they talk peace on earth, they talk about turning the other cheek. In reality, you must protect your life first, or you cannot continue to practice and preach the teachings of Jesus.
These people, in terms of the churches, they have hired actual armed guards. Usually they're small churches, and there'll be maybe 2 gentlemen who will be outside with guns. But when you're attacked by a group of 25, 30 people with automatic guns, they kill the guards very quickly and then move into the congregation. They'll set the church on fire if the people are meeting there, and as the people flee, they shoot them. So it's a question. I don't know the answer to the questions you're raising. I just know that these people are in terrible straits, and they've gone through horrendous things. The gentleman I was concerned about is in charge of 17 countries. He lives in Nigeria for medical ambassadors. I asked him if he had a gun. He said, yes, he did. He said, a lot of the people here have guns because of the wild animals. We use them for hunting. And I said, if somebody came and hunted for family members, what would you do? And he said, you know, he's troubled by those kind of questions. In fact, he's had death threats on his life already. He's just a prince of a man. We used him in the video. You can see him if you get a copy of the video. But he says, you know, I would probably try to scare them off with warning shots. But if that doesn't work, then I would pray to God that he would give me wisdom as to what to do. I have never been in a situation like that. I don't know how to advise somebody in a situation like that. The people who I interviewed who, you know, ran and fled and hid, they were not people in a position to, it wasn't a one-on-one, how do we have a shootout? So I don't even know how to respond to that conversation. All I know is that these people were attacked by larger numbers. They raced for their lives. Many of them didn't make it. You know, some situations they'll say in the testimonies, when we got the count of the number of people dead, there were 67 Christians killed. Another one, there were 105 Christians killed. So whatever is kind of an academic question in my mind as far as my desire to help these people, I don't even know how to advise them because I haven't been through it. They basically say, 2 things. They told me, they said, we think someday even Christians in your country will face this kind of a situation. That was one of the things they told me. The other things they told me, and it almost breaks me up to say it, they said, thank you. And I said, why are you thanking me? I thank you for, you know, coming this long distance and telling me what has happened. They said, because nobody's listening. and you're listening to us, and you're trying to let the people in other parts of the world, especially in the Western world in America, you're trying to let them know so they'll pray for us. We thank you, and I'm deeply humbled by that, because I'm in a position where I feel like I'm their debtor in many ways. One of the things on the video I try to do, because it's relatively easy to give money for relief for these people, and we can channel it. That's not a problem. It's hard for people in America even to know how to pray. So part of that video is just to say this is a way to pray, not only for the people who have been persecuted, but for the perpetrators as well, because in my mind, whatever we say about the Muslim militants, even, Jesus still loves those people. And it's interesting to me, the number of people who talk in terms of that background, who say God spoke them through visions or dreams. God's working in their lives in many ways as well. So it's a very confusing thing to me. And I don't think I've sorted it all out. And I listen to you, and I'm glad you're even talking about it. But my desire was to be as much help to these people as I could.
Now, David, you ask, or you make a comment, and it brings up a question. First, let me tell you that I had a fellow on this show who was a pastor, a minister. But before he was a minister, he was a builder. And before he was a builder, he was a bad person. Let's put it that way. He was a,
Okay.
In fact, they did a movie about him. And they called him the machine gun preacher.
Yeah, I actually saw the video, yes.
All right, well, but I talked to him before any movie was made, when he was first into this. And I said to him, what the hell were you doing in Africa? I think it was in Uganda or someplace like that.
Yes, pretty easily.
And I said, what are you doing? He said, I found Christ. I wanted to make amends for a bad life. I went, my church asked me to help because of my skills in the building area on a mission to help to build some homes. And I went there and found people that had been tortured and mutilated, ears and noses and lips cut off and arms cut off. And I said, what the heck is going on? And it was the army of the Lord, or whatever they called themselves. And he said, the bad part of me said to the good part of me, do something. And he did. And he went home, and he came back, and he trained 2 guys. And then with those 2 guys, they trained 4 or 5 more guys. And then they got whatever they got, 30 or 40 guys, and they went after the bad guys and killed them. And every time the bad guys went any place, these people would go and they would find them and they would kill them. And eventually they broke the back of that, whatever they call, army of the Lord, or whatever they call themselves. I mean, the bad guys. And, maybe I'm not telling you I was a bad guy, but I certainly didn't have any recommendations to be canonized. But I can just tell you this. You're doing a wonderful thing in trying to bring the world's attention. Bravo. These people appreciate someone caring that they live or die. I agree. But the next step is what? What is the next step in your mind?
You're asking, well, the next step for me is to raise an awareness in churches to pray about the situation. The next step is to raise as much funds as I can for a person who is destitute, a person who is in ministry. All these people, I ask them, and it's on the video, do you want to continue to walk with the Lord? And they all want to walk with the Lord. So that's my area. Whether the United States government should get involved, what the Nigerian military situation would be, all those are more complicated. I'm not a man who has a background with guns. I don't know how to answer those. The only thing I felt called, and I definitely felt called to go over there, because I had skills in terms of radio television. I'm older now, but we won the Programmer of the Year award back in '95 for the television program I was in from the National Religious Broadcasters. So I understand that field pretty well. And I thought, I'm old, it's hard to get around those. You're not talking about luxury situations by any stretch of the imagination. But I went there, and what the Lord said to my heart, and I come back to that again, is do what you can to raise help for these people, because if this were your situation, if you had lost your family, if you had lost your wife, if you lost your income, you lost everything, and you didn't have any help, you'd be so grateful for anybody who would do anything. In fact, when I came back, I said to my wife, I need to give a donation, and I have something in my mind. I want you to pray about it, because I don't want to send it without you knowing first. So she prayed, and then she came to me, and she said the exact figure I had, which was a lot bigger figure than we had given to anything. And I had, I'd gone over there, given them my life and everything, but I felt that's not enough. So my personal feeling is the area of guns, all those, there are a lot of people, and you're probably one of them, who know how to answer that a whole lot better. And I do believe it is the role, say, of the United States government to protect its citizens. That's one of its #1 priorities. So I'm not uninvolved with what you're saying. I'm not as attuned to what you're saying as I am to saying, how can I get Christian people in America to know what is going on? Because for the most part, they're ignorant of what's happening. There was a university in northern Nigeria, and these militants came in. They called out 26 students. All of them were Christians, and they either shot them in the head or they cut their throats. Now, what does that do to the families? These are families that are educated and such, and these things make the news, but they don't usually make the news in terms of if the students are drawn out, killed by militants, but they don't say they're Christian students. It is it's not mosques that are being burned, it's Christian churches. One area, there were 80 churches out of 84 that are no longer functional. So these are huge things. Nigeria is a very important country. It's English speaking. It's probably one of the major countries in Africa. And if Nigeria were to fall, that would be a huge thing. So basically, I want to stand behind these, and I want to give that website again, which is medicalambassadors.org. medicalambassadors.org. You go there, it's very simple. You just click on to the Nigerian picture, and then you can get a copy of the video. And it's, me telling about it is one thing, but you actually seeing these people tell their story and how broken they are, it just grabs your heart very, very quickly. So that's my calling, and I feel like I'm an expert on that only because my heart has been so deeply touched. Okay?
Well, we appreciate certainly, along with, I think, all people, that you are giving and not taking, that you are helping and not hurting, and that you care as opposed to ignore. That those are all just absolutely wonderful attributes. And I hope that this show, which is seen by hundreds of thousands of people,
yes,
some of them will be touched, many of them will be touched. Hopefully, they will help to support helping these people. But the fact is, if we keep building churches and they keep burning them down, if we keep raising people up and they keep tearing them down or killing them, that's a cycle that can only be repeated so many times, and then there are no more churches, and there are no more Christian people.
That's exactly right, yes.
I mean, that's my thought, Chief.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I do admire what you're doing. I don't want to chastise that in any way, shape, or form. But like the word care, like you said a minute ago, caring is a wonderful thing. But if you care about hunger, that doesn't take the place of a food line. So there has to be some type of action that goes along with this. And I appreciate the fact that you've never been around guns or haven't had guns in your lives. So I would suggest you try to find some Christian former military people, some Christian former law enforcement like myself, that can help give more information about how people can organize to protect themselves against this type of violence. That's what I think you need now. The caring is great, the praying is really great, but we must identify the problem. The problem is Muslims killing Christians, so we must stop the Muslims from doing that. So that's going to take more than prayer, more than caring. It's going to take some type of action with some firearms and some training. And like all human beings, everything that we do, we do it by education and then practice. So this is the same thing. This is going to take education and then practice, scenario training, to get people where they can be secure and they can take care of these types of problems. It's a big task. It's a real big task, but that's what needs to happen next. So, and again, I'm a devout Christian. I'm a loyal Catholic. I'm a big believer in Jesus Christ and the Christian faith, but it takes more than prayer. Jesus said it takes more than good thoughts. It takes good actions as well. So that's the next step we need to work together to find.
David, we want to be supportive.
I appreciate your advice, and I'm trying to stay in touch with what is happening there and to hear, all the bigger scope of the problem. So I hear that. I'm not blocking my mind to it. Thank you. And again, I thank people for not blocking their mind even to what I'm saying, which is which is another part of it.
Right, and on this video that people are seeing of our show, because most of our viewers don't watch the initial show, we're in the new media, so we get hundreds of thousands of people that subscribe through iTunes and the like and get our shows and watch them. And your website is right under your picture anytime you're talking. And let me add my voice then to what we're showing on the screen and to say to people, please watch the video, take the $5 or $10 or $20 or $50 or $100 that you feel would be helpful and help to empower David to help these people. And at the same time, I appreciate, David, that you're saying your mind is open to having other ways to help, other ways to protect, other ways to protect God's work and God's workers.
You guys have a great reputation. I feel honored to be given as much time as you've given me. And thank you for that.
Well, it is certainly our pleasure. And again, we commend you and add our prayers to the prayers, I'm sure, of thousands or hundreds of thousands, that you are successful in helping these good people, and that God would see it would be right to also help and protect them. And hopefully together this will all work out. David, thank you so much for being with us.
It's my privilege, Stan.
God bless you. Folks, we'll be back with more in just a moment. Stay tuned for more of Talk to Solomon. You have a computer, if you're alive today, which means you have a hard drive, which means it's going to break down. Mosey, the backup people, for thousands, for Stan, for thousands of people, for tens of thousands of people, is simply common sense. You go to cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mosey, the backup people, and sign up. It's just a few dollars a month. Let me tell you something. We had a break-in. They stole our whole computer. You know what? When they take the computer, you can't recover anything, but we had Mosey. We had the backup. We were able to restore everything simply by buying another computer. cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mosey, the backup people, and give yourself common sense, peace of mind, great value, the best thing you've ever done. Sooner or later, it's going to be Mosey, the backup people. I like to eat. You like to eat? We all do. And usually we run to the grocery store, we run to the convenience store, or we have something in the fridge. But power's been out in parts of this country in the last few weeks. We don't know what's going to come down the pike economically. Smart people are putting in food. Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves is a line of foods that you can put away that will last for a very long time. You know, they say eat what you store and store what you eat. This is great tasting stuff, healthy for you, a full line. You go to our website, cpnlive.com, and click on the button for Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves and see all the different things we have. This is good tasting food. It's reasonably priced. It will last. And it's worth its weight in gold if a problem arises. I know you don't think there's going to be anything that goes wrong. Actually, you do. This is smart. This is smart insurance. This is smart preparation. This is smart thinking. You have kids, you have a spouse, you have parents, you have dependents, you have an appetite. All those things can be addressed by a frugal but smart investment in Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves. Try them out. You will be tickled to death with the taste of them. You know what? In many cases, people start to eat this and they think, heck, this tastes better and costs less than what you're going to the grocery store to buy. cpnlive.com, check it out. Hey, my name is Stan Solomon, and you know if I have something to say, I'll say it. And I'll only tell you the truth because I'm a Republican, not a Democrat. Democrats always lie. Republicans only lie half the time. I don't lie at all. This is the Fuel Mule. It's an extraordinary product that was developed by a friend of mine, an engineer, and it increases the fuel mileage on your vehicle. If you have a combustion engine, this will increase your mileage by 10 to 20%. It bolts around your fuel line. You can install it yourself or have your mechanic do it. It is an extraordinary item, and it flat works. I've been using it for more than 10 years. It's increased my mileage on every vehicle I put it on, and by the way, it will last forever. You can get rid of your vehicle, just take it off and put it on the next one. Go to cpnlive.com. You'll have more information there. You can order it right there. We absolutely guarantee you'll be satisfied. The Fuel Mule. It's a way to kick down your cost of fuel and kick up your mileage. Don't you love the name? I thought of it. The Fuel Mule.